Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to a different and new Polar Roots inspiration series for us. We tonight are going to be looking at some tropical warm weather expeditions in Australia and Indonesia. So something a little bit different from us. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Martin Johnson. I'm the co-founder and director of Polar Roots, and it's very warm welcome to you all. Very much looking forward to tonight. I will also be learning with you about two fabulous warm weather expedition cruise destinations. Um, and we will be hearing from our expert in a few minutes' time, who we will be hearing all about those destinations. So I'll introduce her. So just to let you know what is coming up tonight, I shall share my screen just once more, just to give you what is going to be happening. You're going to see lots of warm weather pictures, which is different to us, and I'll explain a little bit more about our Beyond the Poles program in just a moment. Then tonight, our main attraction, we'll be learning about Australia and Indonesia with our special guest, Sandrine Rose. We will then, after her presentation, have some questions and answers, which can come from yourself or myself as well. And I will then wrap us up and we'll have our prize. As those of you who've joined us before know, at every Polar Roots Inspiration series, we have a little prize draw. And tonight we have two prizes that a choice of either or. You can choose on the left there the Kraken rum, which is a sort of Caribbean blended rum known for its smoothness and legendary flavour. It's not an area of the world that we're talking about today, but it's a sort of idea being a tropical alcoholic beverage choice that you may want to make, or you may also wish to choose our pink pepper kitchen brownies, which is coming in their special tropical tin tonight. Amazing brownies. If you have never tried them before, highly recommend. So you can choose from either. As ever, the deal is you must still be here at the end of the webinar in order to claim your prize. So we will come to that at the end. Tonight, as ever, we thank the people that make it possible. And tonight, this webinar is sponsored by PONANT. PONANT are a French pioneer in luxury expedition cruising, and offer intimate voyages on their expedition ships around the world. So some of you watching may know them from the polar regions, and we work with them very closely there, but they actually operate on all continents of the world, and of course, including Australia and Indonesia, which we'll be learning more about in a few minutes' time. So my thanks to PONANT for tonight's for sponsoring tonight's session. So, Polar Routes Beyond the Poles. We have had this program in operation now for just over a year. Obviously, our sort of traditional heritage is in the polar regions, but as our clients have returned and love expedition cruising and want to travel further afield, a year ago or so, we listened and introduced our Beyond the Poles program. And that covers really all 6 continents across the world. But for those of you that don't know us, Polar Routes, we're one of the UK's leading wholesalers of expedition cruises. We work with over 25 leading expedition cruise operators, comparing all of the ships, the itineraries, the prices and inclusions to find your perfect cruise. There's a few names on the screen there, but as I said, we work now with over 25 partners all around the world in expedition cruising. All of our team have expert first-hand knowledge and advice on both the polar regions and our warm weather destinations as well. We have detailed knowledge of all of the ships, the itineraries, and the inclusions. We can also package all of the things you need to get you to and from your cruise, including flights, transfers, accommodation, and indeed some exciting land packages as well, particularly if you're going to places further afield like Australia and Indonesia. So do speak with the team and they can take care of that for you. All of our prices for expedition cruising are the same or better than the cruise operators. That's absolutely guaranteed. You will never pay Polar Routes a penny more than you would at the operators directly. And in fact, you'll also see exclusive deals and our own hosted departures from time to time as well. And excuse me. And by booking with us, you'll become part of the My Routes rewards program, collecting points for every booking that you make with us, which can be spent on future holidays with Polar Routes and as well our sister company, Routes, who are specialists in Latin America. As a company, we support the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust, just to nod back to the polar regions. It's an amazing charity that preserve a number of historic bases along the Antarctic Peninsula. I was very lucky earlier this year to go and visit them at the Port Lockroy Post Office, which is the British Post Office in Antarctica. And they even let me behind the counter for a picture as well. They would let me hold that toy post box, not a real one. They weren't going to trust me with that, but it was a pleasure to see their work going on down there at Port Lockroy. And as I said, they preserve a number of bases. So booking with Polar Routes, we support them. We take collections from each of our bookings to support them, as well as fundraising efforts throughout the year as well. So that's just a little bit about us, if you didn't know, and a little bit about our Beyond the Poles program. You can find the Beyond the Poles program on our website. Just go to polarroutes.co.uk, and in the top menu, you'll see Beyond the Poles. You'll also see it on the homepage as well. We have a sort of selection of Beyond the Poles itineraries on there. But if there's a part of the world that you're thinking of taking an expedition cruise and it's not covered on that page, then just submit an inquiry or get in touch with your travel specialist or one of the team, and we can indeed look at all of the options available in the destination that you're thinking of traveling to. So we were going to come on to our special guest in just a moment, but just to cover off, if during the tonight's presentation you have got questions or comments about the content, or if there's things that you want answering, then at the bottom of the screen, you'll find a comments box or a Q&A box, sorry, a chat box, in fact. So just pop your questions into the chat box. You don't have to wait till the end. You can pop them in as soon as you think about them. And either our special guests will answer them if it's relevant immediately at the time. If not, I will cover them off at the end, as well as some of my questions as well. So use the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and we will go through them at the end before we make our prize draw. So on to our special guest tonight. We're very fortunate to be joined by Sandrine Rose, who was born in Corsica, but raised in Australia with the Great Barrier Reef as a backyard, where she studied zoology and marine biology and worked as a naturalist and a teacher. Today, since 2014, she's been an expedition leader and now is Senior Expedition Operations Manager for PONANT, and she has been sharing her passion for wildlife and wild places worldwide ever since. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite Sandrine to pop her camera on. Hopefully she's still there. She is indeed. And we've even gone for sort of a matching tropical theme as well. Sandrine, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I do apologise for the sound. It was working fine before, but that's technology. So I've been invited to speak with you today about two of my favourite destinations. I've been sailing as an expedition leader in the Kimberley region in Indonesia for more than a decade. So why would you want to come and do a PONANT Kimberley expedition cruise with us? And I guess I'm a little bit biased here, because I think that the main selling point for our wonderful expeditions is the expedition team themselves. And I am biased because I actually recruit most of them, so I know them very well and I know just how fantastic they are. The Kimberley is an absolutely stunning destination. It's we've been sailing there since 2017, and we know that place really, really well, and we can bring it to life for you, our passengers on board. So the important thing to remember is you're surrounded by the expedition team every step of the way. The Kimberley is a really, really wild place. Basically, as soon as you step foot on board the ship, you won't see civilization until you get to the very end, and that's what makes it really special. And we're there with you every step of the way to make sure that you are happy and safe. We've got the expedition team that are always there in the little tricky spots. It is an expedition voyage. You are in the wilderness of northwestern Australia, and it's pretty unforgiving. It's a beautiful wild place, so you're surrounded with people to help you out. But also, most importantly, also is the learning that we all do when we go on these expedition voyages. And the expedition team are experts in a whole variety of topics, whether it's geology or marine biology, zoology or anthropology, cultural, Aboriginal culture and history. And we share that with you. The Kimberley is obviously well known for its wildlife, so you can see our beautiful little crocodile there on the left-hand side. That photo is it's an actual photo. It looks a little bit deceiving because the zodiac's actually quite a distance away from that crocodile. It's just in that shot, it looks like it's right in front. So you can always pick the expedition team because generally they're pointing out things. So you'll be going on zodiac cruises and they'll be talking with you the whole time and telling you all about the wonderful places that we're going and what we're seeing. So what I'll do is I'll run through a typical itinerary for the Kimberley. We do have two different ones. We have the Darwin to Broome or the Broome to Darwin, which are pretty much the same. The one difference is that the Darwin to Broome does go to Ashmore Reef, and I'll talk to you about that. But apart from that, we hit the same wonderful spots. So starting with King George. So the King George Gorge is the first destination that you'll get to once we leave Darwin, and you'll be travelling from the ship 8 kilometres inland it's actually the estuary, because you'll be making your way all the way to the King George Twin Falls, and depending on what time of the season you go as to how much water is flowing, and depending on what sort of wet season we got. But here, King George, it's all about these beautiful rocks which are almost 2 billion years old. So we're not talking in the millions, we're talking in the billions, some of the oldest rocks in the world. And this is this photo was taken a little bit later in the season, so it doesn't look very, very spectacular, but you definitely get a really good perspective of what the falls would look like in the summertime season. So that's a view from the top of the falls. So you can see the zodiacs going up and back. So you'll be going on a zodiac cruise for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Sounds like a long time, but in fact, it actually goes quite quickly because there's so much to see. The next nation is Jar Island. This is a beautiful little island where we go to look at rock art, Aboriginal rock art. So in the Kimberley, we have two different types of endemic rock art, which is found nowhere else in the world, nowhere else in Australia, in fact. It's only in the Kimberley. So we have this one, which is the Guion, or also known as Bradshaw rock art, and the Wandjina, which I'll show you a little bit later on. So this beautiful little island, the access to this is really quite easy, which is nice. So it's a fairly short walk from the beach to go and have a look at these beautiful paintings. Now, we're talking about rock art that's about 15 to 20,000 years old, if not older. So we're talking really, really old, really, really precious Aboriginal rock art that we have the privilege to go and see. Now, going to Ashmore Reef, we'll have a bit of time out at sea because it's a bit of a trot to get out there, which gives you the opportunity to enjoy the ship. So whether you're on the Jacques Cartier or on Le Soleil, there's lots of things to do, lots of different spaces. We'll be, obviously the expedition team will be doing lectures in the lecture theatre, very comfortable, and it's a good opportunity to catch up on some reading, or go to the gym if you're feeling particularly motivated, or you can go to the spa. So basically it's a lovely time to really enjoy the beautiful ships. So there's also the pool. We're one of the few ships which actually has a pool on board. So you're not going to be swimming laps, but it is quite warm in the Kimberley, so it's nice to have a bit of a dip, because there's certainly no other swimming allowed in the Kimberley due to the resident crocodiles. So when we get to Ashmore Reef, we don't disembark. We're not allowed to actually go onto the island, but we do take you for a zodiac cruise. So you can see here, Ashmore Reef is actually closer to Indonesia than it is to Australia. It's one of the most remote reefs, and with the absolutely amazing ecosystem out there. And we go out for a zodiac cruise and take you to view the reef, and we'll generally see turtles, lots and lots and lots of birds that are roosting on the island. And it's a really leisurely zodiac cruise. So you can see here lots of brown boobies and frigate birds and terns. So those of you who are bird enthusiasts, you will love this port of call. And then it's on to Careening Bay. So Careening Bay is the place where Philip Parker King actually, and if you do a Kimberley cruise, you'll learn all about Philip Parker King, where he actually careened his little ship, the Mermaid, to fix her up after she had a bit of an incident hitting a sandbar. And here is a beautiful boab, very, very ancient tree, and it happens to have an inscription in there from the Mermaid. So we have a little port of call there to go and see this beautiful tree, as well as explore some of the area around it. So there's the tree there. It's absolutely huge. It's spectacular. It's a really beautiful thing to see. Then we're on to Swift Bay. Swift Bay is, again, we're going to look at some rock art, but this time it's the Wandjina rock art. So a little bit younger, sort of 5,000 to 10,000 years old. And we basically take you, it looks from a distance, it doesn't look like much. This is the landing site, and basically something to remember about the Kimberley that I forgot to mention is that everything we do is dictated by the tides. The tides can be very, very spectacular. It's not unusual to have a 9 or 10 meter tide, and so it really does dictate where we can go and when we can go there. So this is Swift Bay on a low tide. And we take you on shore, and underneath that big rock is where we have what we call the galleries, and you can see some of the Wandjina rock art there, with the expedition guide giving you some explanations as to what you're actually seeing and experiencing. So we've got some artifacts as well, which is really special. This rock here that you can see has been used for thousands of years probably to crush ochre, and is still sitting there, which is a very special thing indeed. And this is a bit of a close-up of one of the Wandjina paintings. This Wandjina painting is about 1.5 meters across, so that gives you a bit of an idea of scale. And then it's onto the Hunter River, and in the Hunter River, it's all about the mangrove ecosystem. And so we do zodiac cruises through here at both high tide and low tide, to give you a really good example of how that mangrove ecosystem looks very, very different with the tides. So this is at high tide, and gives us the opportunity to go in amongst the mangroves, which is really quite special. So you can see this is Porosis Creek. Basically, we follow up the creek and basically just nose into all the little nooks and crannies and go looking for wildlife. And in particular, let's be honest, we're going looking for these beautiful reptiles. I'm a bit biased again. I studied zoology, and reptiles were my specialty, so I do love these animals. We of course take all precautions. We take safety very, very seriously, and all of our expedition team who are driving your zodiacs are very experienced in their driving, and also in the region with these animals. So it's always special to get to see these guys in their natural habitat. The Hunter River and Swift Bay is also an opportunity for you to take a helicopter tour. So that is an additional cost. Don't ask me how much it is. I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry. And this is where you can take a helicopter tour to go and see the Mitchell Falls. It's about a 2.5 hour round trip, and you're picked up from the beach in the helicopter, taken to see the beautiful Mitchell Falls. You get to have a walk around. There's another separate pool where you can have it and swim as well, so where there are no crocodiles, and then back to the beach and back to the ship. So that's something to do as an extra. And then Talbot Bay. So Talbot Bay is really all about the tides, because Talbot Bay is the home of the horizontal falls. So this is part of the Lallangarum group, and so this is the horizontal falls that you might have already seen in some brochures, or even on a documentary. So this is this wonderful phenomenon where you have the water that is rushing out through this narrow gap, and it creates this massive current. So we don't actually go through the falls, because we respect the traditional owners of Lallangarum, and in the traditional owners' beliefs, it actually is not a good thing to go through there. The water flowing through actually is represented by the wungal, which is the snake, and going through there when the tide is rushing hurts the snake. So we choose not to do that. We choose to respect our traditional owners, but we'll take you to have a look, and you'll find it's just as spectacular. And we also go for a zodiac cruise for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and show you the beautiful, beautiful geology of Talbot Bay. So you can see here the rocks. The geology is really quite different to for example, King George, and the expedition team will tell you all about what you're actually looking at. Sometimes there's a little bit of wildlife. These are the little short-eared rock wallabies that sometimes pop their head out, and also the tawny nurse sharks, which often come to the back of the ship to come and say hello. So it's always lovely to have a visit. Now, Montgomery Reef is again a really, really special place. This is an absolutely huge reef system. It's quite different to a coral reef that you might be more familiar with, such as on the Great Barrier Reef, because it's actually made up of rotoliths, which is actually a type of algae. And what we do is we take you out there on the zodiacs to watch when the reef emerges, and you get to see these little rivulets of water coming down, pouring off the top of the reef from the lagoon down into what we call the river. So we take you up there looking for some birds, lots of turtles. Now, turtle spotting is an individual sport because they are very shy and very quick. So each to their own when it comes to turtle spotting. And if you come in a certain time of the season, so July to September, early September, is the humpback breeding season. So these are the Western Australian population of humpback whales. So coming back up from Antarctica, there's some that go up the east coast of Australia, and these come up the west coast of Australia, and they come up to the shallow waters in the Kimberley for the females to give birth to their young in the lovely warm sheltered waters, and also to mate, and then before they head back to Antarctica to feed. So if you're interested in seeing whales in tropical areas, then you're in luck. And then we've got the Lacepede Islands. That's our last port of call on this particular voyage. And the Lacepedes is all about the wildlife. 20-odd thousand nesting pairs of these beautiful brown boobies, which are very comical to look at, but they're really very endearing. We take you into the lagoon, and it's a little bit like Ashmore Reef, but we get in a lot closer, which is really good. So we've got the boobies, we've got frigate birds, there's at least 4 different species of terns, as well as lots of little waders as well as lots of turtles, and occasionally a crocodile as well. So you can see here some of the birds that I was mentioning, and the turtles as well. So the Lacepedes is actually the biggest breeding population of green sea turtles in Western Australia. So we have lots and lots of these beautiful turtles that call this place home. And if we're lucky, we'll even see some sharks, some rays, and if we're really lucky, a sea snake as well. So it's all about the wildlife. So that's the Kimberley in a nutshell, very quickly. And the second destination that I'm going to talk to you about is this particular voyage. It's one close to my heart because it was the very first one that I did with PONANT many years ago, and I'll actually be heading back there in December as the expedition leader again. So it is a beautiful little trip, lovely voyage. What I love about this is we really do cover a lot of things. So we have the cultural aspect, and for those of you who like getting into the water, we also have the aquatic options as well. So I'll just run through quickly Komodo National Park. So this is obviously where we go and see the beautiful Komodo dragons. So along the path that we take you, it's a guided tour. We generally go to Komodo in the morning. There's two options. There's a shorter and a longer walk. So if you're not feeling like doing a 2-hour walk, there is a shorter walk available, and pretty much guaranteed to see the Komodo dragons. Quite often we'll turn up on the island and there'll be some on the beach. So it's a really great spot to see these beautiful animals. And then in the afternoon, we head to Pink Beach, and it's called Pink Beach because the coral that grows there, you can see the pink coral there on the side, as it's been crushed over thousands of years, has blended with the white sand to make this beautiful light pink hue. So this is about the swimming and snorkeling, or just lazing on the beach. Basically, it's a lovely afternoon. Pink Beach does have really good snorkeling, really great coral. So if you're interested in snorkeling, then you will love this. Next stop is Moulmein, and as you can see, this is a visit to a traditional village where we are welcomed with a welcome ceremony. They are modern villages, so it's important to remember that that we have this beautiful merging of old with new, and the traditional culture which has been brought into the 21st century. So it's a really lovely combination of the two. Some demonstrations of the ikat, which is the traditional fabric, and so we'll be doing that one in the morning. So you can see there's some workshops with the ladies that are actually making the fabric. Then it's on to Calabahi, and in Calabahi, again, it's a visit of a small village with welcome ceremonies, as well as a visit to the museum and the market. So it's again very much of a cultural immersion, and bearing in mind that every single place that we visit has its own culture, has its own dances, has its own peculiarities, and makes it really quite unique. So there's no two the same. And in the little town is called Alo, and the ladies dancing you can see these bangles around their wrists and their ankles, which makes this beautiful music while they're dancing. And then in Barrett Daya, again, it's an afternoon of swimming and snorkeling. So as you can see, nice combination of some culture and then some beach time as well, with some lovely snorkeling and the reefs there. Then it's on to Bandonera. We spent the whole day in Bandonera, and we have the Kora, which is the welcoming canoes, and we have the morning visiting the town with a traditional ceremony welcoming us, as well as a guided walking tour through the streets of Bandonera up to the forts there. So there's a lot of history, lot of European history blended with the Indonesian history in this part of Indonesia. And then in the afternoon, we take you for a very special snorkel, and it's off the Api volcano. So you can see here, this volcano erupted, had a slide about 35 years ago now, and so the lava actually cooled, obviously underwater, and the corals grew on top of that rock. So you have just this beautiful young reef growing on top of that volcanic rock. So those who are keen divers and snorkelers will absolutely love Bandonera. It's one of my favorite spots. It's very special. Then we go to Kitty Kitty Waterfall, which is a really interesting phenomenon. It's actually a waterfall, fresh water that comes straight into the ocean. So there's a mixing there. What we do is we take you can have either a swim. You can see there's people sort of swimming. It's actually quite shallow. So we just take you in the Zodiac, and you just jump off the Zodiac, go for a swim, and we'll pick you up when you're done. Or for those of you who don't wish to go for a swim, we can take you for a Zodiac cruise to have a look around the bay. So that's a nice little half-day activity that we do there. Then it's on to Triton Bay. Triton Bay is absolutely stunning. It's these beautiful karst formations, and which is ancient limestone, so ancient coral reef that's been uplifted over the last few thousand years, and you have tropical rainforest that's growing on top of that. So it kind of looks like these, at low tide, it looks like these floating mushrooms above the water, and the water is crystal clear. You can see the fish, beautiful flora. So if you love your tropical plants, I love the pitcher plants and the beautiful little wild orchids. And if we're really lucky, we'll get to see some hornbills flying past as well, which is quite special. So that middle photo there, you can see the ship is anchored out in the middle there, and we actually come in towards inside the bay there, and take you for a zodiac cruise around there. And then in the afternoon we go and pop ourselves either on a beach or again some snorkeling from the zodiacs. Then we go to Agats. So Agats is West Papua, and it is absolutely spectacular. The welcome that you can see there down the bottom with all the canoes is really quite. At first, it's quite intimidating because these are warriors. These gentlemen on their canoes are very much warriors, and you do really get a sense of what it would have been like back in the day, arriving in these far remote West Papuan communities. And the people here are very, very welcoming. Everyone comes down. Everyone is really, really keen to meet us when we go there. Wonderful welcoming ceremonies, and then there's the opportunity to actually walk around the village, go into the longhouse. There's carvings, so we do that in the morning, and then in the afternoon we take you on a tour of the town, and if there's time, to pop into the museum as well, which was completed a couple of years ago, which is absolutely spectacular. So Agats is a full day experience, and it's a really, really special one. And then we have clearance in Thursday Island, and then we arrive in Cape York. So welcome to Australia. So this, everyone likes to get their photo with this, with the panel here saying it's at the northernmost continental tip of Australia. And this photo was taken at a rather high tide. I prefer it when it's a little bit lower, because every time we go there, there is always the resident crocodile, so we keep our distance from them. And then we go to Lizard Island, aptly named after these monitor lizards that call this place home. And here what we do is we take you for a walk in the footsteps of Captain Cook. This was actually the spot from Lizard Island, up at the top of what's called Cook's Lookout, was where he actually found a way out of the reef after his ship had a little incident with a coral reef. He actually climbed up to the highest peak to figure out how to get out of there. And but we don't have any such problems with our ships. We know where we need to go, and we take you for a walk across the island. Opportunity to see some wildlife, so not just the lizards but lots of birds as well, and then some swimming and snorkeling in the clam gardens of Watson's Bay. So once again, a lovely relaxing day on Lizard Island. And that's it from me. I hope that was clear. Martin, how did that go?
Great. And the sound sorted itself, seemed to sort itself out, which was brilliant. So after about a
Excellent.
minute, I think it kicked in for most people. So yeah, no, absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for a little flavour there of two very unique voyages, Sandrine, and obviously it's a passion area for yourself as well. I think it's so.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Just apologies. Apparently, the chat box is disabled. So, but I think most of you who have asked questions have found the Q&A box, which I suppose is self-explanatory. So, apologies for that. And thanks for that. If you do have any questions and found the chat box disabled, just pop them into the Q&A and we'll ask. But Sandrine, I will just kick off. There is a couple of questions that I'll absolutely come on, because both are relevant. But what I wanted to sort of open and ask, so someone who perhaps has cruise to the polar regions with us, which could is a distinct possibility. How would you say to someone preparing, therefore, for a tropical expedition cruise? Now, what's going to be different? What people need to kind of prepare for going expedition cruising in a warmer tropical climate in the two areas we've discussed?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think what's really important is not to come with expectations that it's going to be the same as your Antarctic trip or your Greenland Svalbard trip, because those voyages are pretty much 100% expedition. You're not going to any villages. You're not going to, you might see an Inuit population when you go to Greenland. But apart from that, if it's Antarctica, well, it's just every colony of penguin as you work your way along the peninsula. And whereas in the tropics, obviously we're going to places, so for example, Indonesia, we're going into communities. So Indonesia, West Papua, all the way through the Solomon Islands and Vanuatu and Papua New Guinea, where that the whole point of these voyages is for that cultural exchange, for that getting to meet people, being welcomed into their village, having welcoming ceremonies, which are a really important part of visiting these places. So we mix that then again with those zodiac cruises and those beach afternoons and things like that. So they nicely complement each other. So don't come in with any expectations. Take them for face value. Try not to compare. Obviously, you don't need your thermals, and enjoy it for what it is, because you do get to meet some beautiful people who are so welcoming, and you turn up and honestly in Alo, I remember a young girl took me by the hand and just dragged me away and wanted to show me her house and her kitchen. And these people are still living very, very traditionally. She did not have electricity. It was a very simple home, and she was really, really proud to show me where she lives. So you get to have these lovely moments with the local people.
Amazing, amazing. And you mentioned you can keep your thermals at home, which I think is probably very easy advice. In terms of packing, obviously, aside from the obvious, cool gear, what maybe are two, three things that someone may not necessarily think to take to one of these destinations, but probably should?
Well, if you're the same color as you and I in terms of skin color, definitely a lycra swimming rashie. In Australia we call them rashies. Long sleeve, long pants. You've got to protect yourself from the sun. So if you're going anywhere where you're going to be snorkeling, swimming, going on a beach, if there's anything like that, I highly recommend having some sort of, and because it protects you from the sun, and it also protects you from potentially any stingers. We are in the tropics. There might be some little jellyfish in there, so it just protects you on both sides. And also it means that you don't have to lather yourself in sunscreen, because sunscreen contains some really nasty products which are not good for our coral reefs. So we don't like to use them. We always try to go with the reef-safe sunscreens, which are usually a zinc-based one. So you'll see all of the expedition team will all be white or brown or green or whatever color zinc they've decided on to use on that day, with our sun shirts. So being sun safe is really, really important.
Okay, good advice. I like it. Nick Smith actually just asked, what about mosquito protection?
Not so much, because we don't go out during those times of the day when the mozzies are out necessarily. So that early morning and late afternoon when they come out, we tend to be, we don't get you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I might get you up at 6 in the Kimberley, but I won't get you up too early. And then by the afternoon we'll be coming back on board before the mozzies come out. But if someone is a little bit sensitive, it is good to take a little bit of bug spray to put on your clothes, over the top of the clothes. I know a lot of people think, in the tropics you'll just wear shorts and t-shirt. We always wear long pants. You can get those active sort of long pants, those trekking ones which are lightweight, dry really quickly, so you can go back to the ship, you can just rinse them in your sink or in your shower, hang them up, and they'll be dry by the morning. So that provides some protection from mozzies, as well as if we're going for a walk and there might be some grasses or things like that. It just protects you. And then the long sleeve shirts are good as well. Those sort of adventure shirts are a good way, lightweight, and they dry quickly, so they're
Nice.
more comfortable than a thick cotton.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we also find that I think people sort of it is still it is different, but it is still an expedition. So I think it is more practical. Quite often, it's more practical gear, and then obviously your time in and around the water is often active as well, snorkeling and
Yeah.
you know rather than sort of how you might think. Interestingly, Jules asked, which just relevant to swimming. She asks the question about the Kimberleys that you spoke to. Is there occasions to swim in the Kimberleys, or is it like a no swimming zone because of the crocs?
No, because of the crocs. I love my crocodiles, but I wouldn't trust one as far as I could throw it. And what's important to know is that the crocodiles inhabit the waters all across the top of Australia, and in the
Right.
Kimberley, it's like Kakadu and the Kimberley are really the hot spots for the crocodiles. So there is no 100% safe spot that we can take people swimming on these particular voyages. So unfortunately, no, there's no swimming.
Okay, so on the Kimberley voyage, no swimming. So if you do want that sort of snorkeling, I mean, some of those imageries look, then I'm guessing you're looking at those Indonesia itineraries or potentially the Indonesia into the top of Australia, which doesn't cover necessarily the Kimberleys, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's Kimberleys is a no swim zone. Also, I'm sorry about that, but I think probably sharing with crocs, I'm sure you probably wouldn't want to be doing that anyway. And I think you mentioned the ship has a pool. Also,
Yeah.
just while we're on the subject of the Kimberleys, obviously you mentioned the Mitchell Falls helicopter tour. I've just sort of looked it up. A sort of guide price for it is around 700 to 800 euros. It is a fairly uh, significant cost, so it is something to be factored in. Obviously, if it's of interest, we'll get the exact cost for you, but it's around about somewhere between 700 and 800. It's quite a long trip. There is a cruise blogger called Gary Bembridge, and his blog is Tips for Travelers, and he recently did a Kimberley trip with another cruise line, so we won't talk about that for too long, but he did do the Mitchell Falls trip as part of that video. So if you are interested, have a little look at Gary Bembridge Tips for Travelers, Kimberley's trip, and he talks about the Mitchell Falls trip and also weighs up the value of it as well. But I think the general conclusion for him and for when we've looked at this before, I think if you're gonna go all that way, and you're gonna, it probably is worth. But obviously, just at the costs, it does need factoring in perhaps potentially to your holiday budget. So just to cover that off as well. Sandrine, if we just come on to PONANT for a minute, and PONANT's actual sort of product, obviously you showed us a few pictures from inside the ship, which is great. Nick also asks, obviously, not being a French speaker, PONANT is a French cruise line. Is that going to be a problem? I know the answer is no, but do you want to just explain how, the makeup of passengers on board and how PONANT runs its expeditions, which is probably relevant both to warm water and cold water as well?
Absolutely. So we welcome lots of different nationalities. Everyone on board speaks English. It's actually a requirement of the crew. All the crew have to speak English. The speaking French is desirable, but not obligatory for most of the crew. And when it comes to the passengers, our expedition team are either English speaking, so most of my Aussie team members don't speak French. They learn a few words, obviously. Over the years, they've picked up a few words. But we also have bilingual guides, such as myself. So I'm originally French, so I speak French when I have to be with my French guests, and I speak English with my English guests. And so we have, there's lots of crossover. Announcements are done in both languages. Obviously, for safety reasons, we need to make sure that everyone understands all of the safety protocols. Lectures are given in 2 languages if we have if we have, it depends on how many people we have. If it's 50-50, then we'll split it around. We don't do translations for English to French or French to English. It just takes too long, and so we just do separate. We'll have a French lecture at 9 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock we'll have an English lecture, and we generally try to do the same theme, whether it's birds or crocodiles or whatever. So then with the groups, the French passengers will have the French-speaking bilingual guides, and the English-speaking passengers will have the English-speaking guides with them. So you'll always have someone who speaks English. Everyone speaks English, so that's definitely not an issue as well. And it's actually quite nice for people to mix as well at lunch and dinner. Make friends with someone from across the way, and yeah, it's a good way to meet people as well.
The polar regions, I kind of know that it tends to be probably a rough 50-50. Is that still the same in the tropical regions, or would you say, because I know obviously PONANT is quite widely sold in the States, in Australia, obviously Europe. What if you sort of were forced into giving us some rough percentages, what would you kind of say you tend to find?
So the Kimberley is predominantly Australian, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Kimberley is definitely a bucket list for Aussies, and I would say 75, at least 75% would be Australian, and smaller groups. Sometimes we'll have a small group of Chinese or a small group of Japanese guests, a few Americans. There's a few little random ones that pop in. Indonesia and Melanesia, it's probably about 50-50 French and English. The Indonesian trips do lend themselves to the French guests, I guess, because sometimes they'll do maybe 2 or 3 voyages back to back, because you've got the discounts and everything, the bonuses when you book consecutive cruises. So, for example, I had some in the Kimberley there this year. I had some French guests that did an Indonesia trip, sort of the last Indonesia trip, finished in Darwin, and then did the first Kimberley trip. So they butted on those 2 voyages, very, very different voyages, which makes it worthwhile if you're coming all the way from Europe. So that might be something to think about as well, is to combine that to really, it's a long way. So to combine those to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely done a few sort of back-to-back voyages. I think there's normally some good complimentary back-to-back discounts to do it.
Yeah.
And equally, of course, especially from the UK, from the UK and European markets, some pre and post is normally strongly advisable, and we can help. We can certainly help with that as well. Sandrine, I think just one last question. I think just to sort of round us up, I wondered if you could share maybe just a moment that's happened on one of those, either one of those 2 voyages, or a special kind of moment that you specifically remember from all the times you've sort of been involved and been out there. Is there a standout sort of experience where when people sort of ask you that you would say it all looks fabulous, but I just wondered if there's a little tale in there somewhere?
Oh goodness. One of my favorite little destinations. So it was not Indonesia. It was sort of next door when we got to Vanuatu, but it kind of, for me, it all kind of blends in, Indo and then Melanesia. But we had planned we're in Malakula, the Malakula Islands, and the visit that we were going to do in the morning, we had to change because there was a death in the village. And obviously when there's a death in the village, we can't just turn up. People are in mourning, and there's all of the cultural practices that obviously we have to respect. So our agent made other arrangements for us for the morning, and then we were sort of stuck with nothing in the afternoon. And so we're thinking, oh my goodness, we were meant to have a beach, but there was no beach. So we left, and then we were just cruising along, and I was up on the bridge with the captain and my colleague Gacha, and then we went, oh, that beach looks nice, doesn't it, as we go past this island. And so we stopped and we dropped a zodiac, and Katja and I went off to do our little scout, as we often do, trying to find somewhere. That's what happens with expedition. Where are we going to go? We don't know. We're going to go find somewhere. And so we turn up on this beautiful little beach, and we're looking at each other and this is fantastic. It's a nice big beach, white sand, there's some coral, perfect afternoon. Does anyone live here first? So obviously we're going, let's check. So we went on shore, and lo and behold, people came down, and yes, the island was inhabited. There were people there that lived in the village. They were so happy to see us, and having a chat. Turns out we were chatting with the chief's wife, and so we politely said, would you mind terribly if we bring 180 of our guests from that ship over there and bring them onto your beach? We'll just stay for a couple of hours. Do you think that might be possible? And she went, oh, absolutely, bring them over. So we brought all the passengers over. We had nothing planned, nothing was organised. Next thing I know, the local people are taking our passengers for a guided tour of their village. They went to the school, they went to the church, they're having these guided tours, they're coming out eating tropical fruit. They just had the best time, and it was unplanned. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's one of these just beautiful cultural exchanges that we had, and they were so pleased to welcome us, and they said, well, would you like to come back? And I said, absolutely. And they said, what can we do different? And I said, absolutely nothing. I said, just what you had. This is perfect. I don't want Disneyland, So so it was great. It was very natural. It was very organic. It was just a really beautiful exchange. They spoke French and English, and we were just made to feel so very, very welcome. So it's these beautiful little tidbits that you get sometimes, which makes it really special.
Amazing. I mean, that's the great thing about expedition cruising, isn't it? When it's sometimes it's the moments where you have to think on your feet that provide some of the very best moments in expedition cruise. What a lovely story to finish on, Sandrine. And Nick's also said he wasn't so sure about PONANT, but he is maybe I should reconsider. So hopefully we've converted Nick into
Come and see us.
into a PONANT client. So yeah, do come and speak to us if you want to have a look at it, Nick, and we can talk through obviously in more detail offline about how it is to experience with PONANT. But yeah, it's a fabulous cruise. Sold internationally, generally a good mixture of languages on board. Actually, Jules has just popped in, which is very interesting. As you said, as long as you go, we're very interested in local culture and wanting an understanding and immersion in their lives, which is great. Are there any other opportunities other than organised excursions to perhaps visit school or seeing how their education works in Indonesia? Yeah, do you want to just talk through? That's quite a relevant question, I think.
Yeah, sometimes, so important to understand that our tours in Indonesia, Melanesia are organised by our DMC, by our local person in the region who actually organises the tours. As you can imagine, there's a lot of logistics that goes into organising a whole village to welcome people, and quite often the school is open for the guests to be able to go and visit. So whether that be in Indonesia, the children will come out or will go to the school. In Vanuatu, we go visit schools. There's quite a few places where the kids kind of get the day off school. So the school's open because you've got the cruise ship and all these people turning up, so they get the day off school and have an opportunity to have some interaction as well.
Brilliant, great, and we can look into that further for you as well if that's a key consideration, just to give you the full facts and stuff on there. Brilliant, but yeah, it's yeah, it looks absolutely fabulous, Sandrine. Thank you so much for really inspiring us this evening. And unfortunately, time as ever runs out. So, but thank you so much for joining us, Sandrine. Also, she's back off to Australia next week as well. So safe travels back over for your adventures out there. And thanks so much for joining us this evening as well. What I will do, just to wrap us up, we have a winner, we have a prize that we must give out. So let me just reshare my screen once more. So we'll just do that, and then we'll do that. So while Sandrine was presenting, are we sharing? Are we looking good? Let's do that. We have drawn the prize. So tonight's winner is Karen Waite. So Karen, congratulations, Karen Waite. If you should hopefully still be here, you need to email info@polaroots.co.uk to claim your prize, and then you've got the choice tonight between the second tropical rum or the pink pepper kitchen tropical pin brownies. So just email the address on the screen, and they will sort you out there. Also, just to mention, I think it's worth mentioning that with PONANT at the moment, there are savings of up to 30%. There is a whole new season release for PONANT. This is sort of more generally PONANT, but there are also some savings I've seen between 10 and 20 for some of the voyages that we've talked about as well. And I think it's also worth noting that PONANT have just really ramped up the no single supplements on a lot of their voyages as well, which is really great to see because it's always an area that we sort of love. We have lots of solo passengers, so you can actually travel on a lot of PONANT's voyages completely single supplement free, or some carry a low single supplement. So if any of the voyages that we've discussed tonight or voyages with PONANT are of interest, do have a look. With the new season releases, the discounts start at 30 and they come down as the ship fills. So the earlier you book, the early bookers are the best rewarded. So do get in touch with the team. And if you'd like to do that, visit our website, polaroots.co.uk. You'll see at the top in the menu or on the home screen the Beyond the Poles programme. The itineraries we've discussed tonight are on the Beyond the Poles section, so you can have a little bit more of a read in detail. Our telephone numbers on the screen, or you can email us at info@polaroots.co.uk. Thank you very much to everyone for being with us this evening. Thank you again, Sandrine, for joining us. And I wish you safe travels back over to Australia. And I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Martin. Hope to see you on board. Come and see us.
Yes. Oh, right. Well, I'll be there. Right.
Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care.